Before I introduce tonight's talk, just a word about the format of the evening. After the talk, you'll see that there are microphones. Downstairs there's a microphone at the front there, in the middle, and there at the bottom of each of the 3 aisles. And on the balcony there are microphones on either side and in the centre at the back. There will be an opportunity to ask questions. If you want to ask a question, simply get up and walk to a microphone and then wait until someone asks you to ask your question. And we will have a roving mic if someone doesn't feel comfortable or able to do that very easily, so if you just put your hand up. Okay, it just remains for me then to introduce this evening's speaker. Over the last decade, Ray Mears has become recognised throughout the world as a leading authority on the subject of bushcraft and survival, and he is of course now absolutely a household name through his television series Tracks, World of Survival, The Essential Guide to Rocks, Extreme Survival, Trips Money Can't Buy with Ewan McGregor, and a number of other programmes, and he's working right now on further series. Throughout these programmes, what Ray's highlighted is his down-to-earth approach, his obvious love for his subject, and the empathy and respect he shows for indigenous peoples and their cultures and the wild places and animals of the world. He spent his whole life learning these skills and is truly a master of what he calls wilderness bushcraft. I think we can honestly say that Ray Mears has changed, simply by his own efforts, our entire mindset about living in and relating to the natural world. And so I'm very pleased indeed to be able to invite him now onto the stage to talk to us on the theme Survivors, Mr. Ray Mears.
Goodness me. Thank you, good evening. It's really nice to be here in Liverpool, and fantastic building, what a great audience. Goodness me, go all the way back. I was asked to come here and talk about the environment, and somebody, when I was away on a trip, came up with the title Survivors and kind of lumped me with it, and I thought, what am I going to talk about, survivors? And then I thought, well, actually that's quite an apt title. And you'll see why I want to talk about how Liverpool might fare in the future. My interest in the outdoors started here in Britain. When I was a very small boy, about 7 years old, I started to go camping. And I wanted to know how to live outdoors like a native. That was what interested me. In those days, there wasn't a lot of information available to help me find the answers to those questions. I was very lucky. The school I went to, we studied sport, and one of the lessons that we studied, which wasn't considered sport, was judo. And the man who taught the judo lessons had fought in Burma behind the lines during the Second World War. And he was a really good pal to all of us, learning the subject. And I remember telling him when I was very young, yeah, I want to stay outside at night, but I haven't got any camping equipment. And he said to me, well, you don't need it. And of course he really meant it. He'd lived that old life. And I listened to him and I followed his advice. And then some years later I found myself doing exactly that, living out. I've been teaching bushcraft in Britain now for 26 years. When I started teaching it, there was no bushcraft. And it's been a joy to see the subject grow and the interest grow and how it's reached out to families, because I really believe there's a massive value in bringing nature back into our lives. 10 years into that career, the BBC came along and asked me, would you do some television for us? And I started making TV programmes, and that's what you see here. I'm in the Highlands of Scotland looking and and telling the story of how our ancestors would have utilised deer, not just for food but for clothing and for other resources. It's a subject I'm still studying. I think this is a really important thing. I see a lot of people today telling the world what experts they are. I've been teaching the subject 26 years and I still feel like a student. This is a life journey. You never get to the end of this subject. That is the beauty of it. I wanted to know, are there still parts of the world where traditional skills are still alive? On the screen you see a picture there of the base from a fire lighting device, a hand drill fire lighting device. I found that in Tanzania. It's the only time I found one just abandoned in the bush, and to me it's an important thing. It's a continuum of a knowledge of our ancestors that stretches back through millennia. We've walked on this planet for 5 million years, or similar creatures to ourselves, 5 million years. And for most of that time, this is the technology we used. And for most of that time, we had a very small impact on our environment. I find that very interesting. Tracking down the people who leave these tools still has not been easy. It's very difficult sometimes, and now it's getting harder still. 16 years of television. In that time, I can tell you that many of these peoples have given up the traditional ways of life, either willingly or because it has become impossible for various reasons for them to continue living that way. Here you have the Hadza in Tanzania, one of the last and tiniest hunter-gatherer groups in Africa. Fantastic people, a joy to work with, absolute joy to work with. You see the arrows hanging in the tree. Poison arrows are a big part of their way of life. In other parts of Africa too. This is in the Kalahari, and these are the Bushmen, the San Bushmen. And here I learned to differentiate between which tribal person to talk to. And this is a very old photo now. This is from 1996. One of the men has even passed away since it was taken. But all of the men in this picture have something in common. They lived in their environment before the arrival of wells. After the arrival of wells in their landscape, people were concentrated in one place, and their traditional skills started to deteriorate. The youngsters today know which routes to dig up to get water, but they haven't lived the old life. All of these men had lived this traditional knowledge, and this is very important. It's not just about finding a tribe, it's about finding the right individuals to talk to, and that's a real skill. There's a degree of suffering involved. You have to be prepared for insects and thorns and heat and cold. And you develop a degree of stoicism. And that stoicism is something that you see as a working principle of the people you work with.